I imagine most of you were living your life in ignorant bliss, not even knowing there was a new Hellboy movie coming out. About 2 months ago, they released a trailer for Hellboy the Crooked Man, and for maybe like 12 hours, people collectively clowned on it because it looked like trash. Anyway, though, most people forgot all about it. I didn't. I paid attention. About 2 weeks ago, they also announced that they weren't even going to bother throwing this puppy into movie theaters. It was just going straight to streaming, which doesn't showcase a lot of faith in Hellboy the Crooked Man here from the higher-ups. They just condemned it straight to the VHS bin at Blockbuster. I love Hellboy. The Guillermo del Toro movies, I think, are amazing, and I was one of the few delusional souls that found enjoyment out of the Hellboy reboot a few years ago. I recognize that it's an objectively horrible film, but tell that to my heart, which was smiling watching it because it was so entertainingly shit. Especially the ending. I actually talk about the ending quite a bit on stream. I still think that is one of the most shocking, out of nowhere, but beautiful endings ever. Basically, hell gets opened on Earth, and they have these really cool demon designs that come out that I've never seen on the big screen, and they just start, like, flaying people alive. They start killing people in really fucking gory, creative ways. It was unexpected and really cool to see. But the movie's bad, I know that. It's still fun. But anyway, I paid attention to the Crooked Man here because I was going to watch it no matter what. And I don't want the title to mislead anyone here. It's not a good movie, but it's not as dog shitty as I was expecting it to be. So clearly this film is working on a lower budget here, which I never mind. Like I said, I think low budget films are the future. Every movie needing $100 million plus budget is absurdity, and some of my favorite films are the ones that are made on shoestring budgets. Even though this budget is like 20 million, I wouldn't even really call that shoestring, but comparatively to like everything else that comes out, that is teeny tiny. That is tiddlywinks of dollars to work with. Godzilla Minus One made it work though with a $15 million budget, and that was my favorite movie of 2023. That movie is a fucking masterpiece. Hellboy the Crooked Man is not. I'm not trying to compare it to Godzilla Minus One or anything. I'm just saying the budget I don't think is the biggest issue with the film. And I actually think they used their budget pretty well. Stylistically, I think the film looks good. I think they chose a good style to go with, and they recognize shortcomings with like CGI and stuff, so they don't bother to try and show you something that looks shitty for CGI. They will instead, like when someone's transforming, instead of showing them going through it, they'll cut away and they've already transformed. It's better than giving you some kind of lazy Nintendo 64 looking thing of them transforming. That's smart. And they do that for some of the action as well. And action doesn't happen much in this movie at all. This is not the Hellboy I've ever seen before. Apparently this is more true to the comic books where he's more of a detective as opposed to like a badass fighter. And I don't really like that. I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, I thought it was lame. Hellboy doesn't do much. Like, even as an investigator, he doesn't do much. He just says, oh crap, a lot. And then at one point, he starts hitting a few zombies with a shovel. And he like grabbed the snake once and popped its head. After getting bit by it like 8 times. And after getting suplexed by this like normal sized snake like 8 times. So I was really unimpressed with Hellboy's ability to handle himself and take care of situations. It wasn't really Hellboy versus the Crooked Man. It was more like this geriatric old man choking on a fur ball and then Hellboy shooting him. I'm getting into spoilers here, obviously, but it's just kind of underwhelming in that department. Now, if you're like a huge fan of the comic books and prefer a more passive Hellboy, then maybe this is more up your alley, but for me, I'd become accustomed to how he'd been portrayed in the previous films, so I didn't really like this version of him very much. I think the actor did a decent job, though, playing Hellboy. You're never going to live up to Ron Perlman or anything, but I thought he was fine. I really did. And I kind of went off on a tangent here, getting into other things, but what I was talking about with the style is I do think they used their budget well. Like, the locations are small, contained, so it's not like huge scale or anything. And I actually prefer that everything's not on this like world-ending scale. I like this more localized story. Basically, they had this spider that they were transporting. Shit gets cattywampus. The spider breaks free. They fall off of a train, and now they're in the weird hills here that have some spooky stuff going on with some witches and the Crooked Man. So it's very small, like it's contained, and I appreciate that. I do want to mention that even though they, for the most part, do a good job of not just showing you bad CGI, there are moments where there is bad CGI because, I mean, For a film like this, there is going to be CGI moments, and yikes, sports fans, I gotta tell you, sometimes it does not look good. For example, there is a witch. Since I'm already getting into spoilers, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you who the witch is. I've been getting into spoilers when going over these things, but I'll just keep giving you warnings. This is a huge spoiler for this, so if you plan on watching this movie, just know I'm about to spoil something big for you. Hellboy's mom plays a role in this, and she's a witch. And Hellboy keeps getting transported to the fucking Upside Down, where he's witnessing his mother being, like, tortured for sins that she has committed, and forced to bear this child, Hellboy. And she is burning. And Hellboy watches her burn, and it looks awful. Like, not like painful or anything, I'm sure it is, but like visually, I thought for a second I wasn't even watching a movie anymore. I was watching like previs. It actually looks like they took the actress and then slapped like fire JPEG images they found on Google and slightly animated it on top of her. It was bad. Again, though, overall, I do feel they did a good job of avoiding, like, bad CGI moments, and overall, I do think the movie looks good, visually. It also goes for a horror approach, as opposed to what I would expect from a Hellboy film, which is more, like, action-oriented and all of that. The film really wants to be unnerving, creepy, spooky. Like, they have the ominous music that you hear in every horror movie ever made. It has very standard horror movie moments. It doesn't really have any jump scares, at least not that I recognized as a jump scare attempt, but it's very clear it wants to be a horror film, at least a large part of it. I do not think it does the horror very well, mainly because it is the most cliche horror that it weaves in here. There's nothing new or exciting about the attempt it makes at making horror moments work. It's all very standard tropes we've seen from every other horror movie ever. But maybe that'll be appealing to some people that would like to see horror integrated with a Hellboy movie. For me, I think that was a miss, though. For me, that wasn't hitting. Like, the first half of the film, we're getting acclimated to this environment with people that understand that witches are around. So, like, Hellboy and his sidekick, her name is Jo. She's like a researcher and like an assistant. She's just here like getting some field work because she's really excited about that and wants like hands-on research. Anyway, they go to this like house that they stumble across. So they go into this house and there's like a boy lying on the floor paralyzed. And Hellboy's like, what's going on with him? And they're like, oh yeah, we've been witched by Cora Fisher. He's been cursed by Cora Fisher, a witch, and now he's like that. And Hellboy's like, okay, so are you okay with him being turned into a rug like this? They don't really answer. He's like, I was a witch with Cora Fisher. And then a guy named Tom comes in, and he's fucking omniscient. He, like, knows everything about everything here. So he comes in, and he's got, like, this little ball of poop. And he tosses it to Hellboy, and he calls it a witch ball. He's like, oh, it's a witch ball. And Hellboy's like, damn, don't like witch balls. I guess. No explanation for, like, what witch balls are, but then it cuts to, like, this weird scene that I don't understand the purpose of. I wrote it down because I was so stunned by it. So, like, after this, and, like, a little bit of background on Cora Fisher, the witch, and her relationship to Tom, it cuts to this part where there's this lady named Granny Oakham. So, she's breaking the fourth wall. She's talking to the audience here through the eyes of, like, we're in the eyes of, like, a crow that's there, and she's talking to us, I believe is the idea, and she gives, like, a YouTube tutorial on witch balls. Again, never explaining what they're used for, like, the purpose of witch balls, unless I missed it somewhere, but she's like, Granny Oakham gonna teach you how to make a witch ball right now, so this is what we're gonna do, you're gonna take a rat's tail, you're going to gut a cat, you're going to take the guts, you're going to put the bones of the cat in here, you're going to put it in a pot, boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew, you're going to then trim your hair, take some of your fingernails, and then trim your pubic hair, put it all together, and you got a witch ball. Why would anyone ever want that? Like, what do you use it for? Does it have power? Like, can I use it like a Kamehameha blast? Like, what is the witch ball for? You've taught me how to make it in this cauldron, but it's fundamentally still a shit nugget. What am I doing with it? And what's crazy is it ends up playing a pretty big role at the end of this movie. Well, in general, actually, you keep seeing witch balls. So, like, they end up going to Cora Fisher's place, the witch, And Tom has a personal connection to her. They get there and they find more witch balls. So she's fucking pooping around like she got like rabbit turds, these witch balls. And Tom's like, oh, damn, she's like a full blown witch. There's like bugs and stuff. And then they find her skin suit. She's just got her whole skin lying around like it's about to be a cosplay costume. So, and Tom's like, all right, we just got to leave her there. She's out wandering around. So I was under the impression that she was just wandering around skinless, just like meat. But it turns out she was just transformed into a raccoon, and then she comes back, crawls into the skin suit's mouth, and takes shape again, but very slowly and very painfully, so her body's like breaking and shit, and she's crying out in agony. So I had to wonder, like, why did she even bother transforming if it's this painful? Just don't transform, just stay in human mode. It seems really stupid to put yourself through that agony. So, anyway, though, now they've all teamed up, Tom, Cora, Hellboy, Joe. And turns out Tom had another friend who was a witch, and I already forgot her name. I think her name was Effie. And he's going through like this flashback where he was becoming a witch. They were doing a ritual, and we learned more about the Crooked Man, who was a guy who got killed, and then he came back to collect souls to be rich again. And he gets like a penny every time he collects a soul. So he has like a pocket full of change, collects souls. Tom and Effie were doing this ritual. He saw the Crooked Man that made him want to stop being a witch. But there was a thing Effie said where, with the cat bones he was collecting, make sure to pick out your favorite bone because it's going to be your lucky bone. For some fucking reason. And that is a very powerful object for the rest of this film. This lucky bone that he has. So he went to war, lucky bone kept him alive. He comes back, the lucky bone's basically a magic wand where he can Wingardium Leviosa shit. So he's got the lucky bone, which is really good against Effie, the witch who is still around and evil and wanting to collect Cora's soul. And the Crooked Man comes through and he wants the lucky bone. And naturally, he doesn't want to give it to him. He doesn't want to give his soul. He doesn't want Cora to die. And Hellboy and Joe are caught in the middle. Joe just wants to kind of research everything and understand everything. And Hellboy, he's just kind of like indifferent. He like seems to care to a certain extent, but like I said, he's not really a fighter. So like when the Crooked Man comes around or Effie comes around, Hellboy doesn't really do much. Like he'll pull out his gun occasionally, but he ends up not firing it, or Joe will like push his hand down to not fire it. So Hellboy's just kind of like a spectator for the most part. And when he tries to get involved, I don't think he's all that effective. So I mentioned the snake earlier, right? Well, it's kind of just like a normal sized snake. It wasn't some kind of behemoth basilisk or anything. Like, what happened is Cora gets taken by this snake. Hellboy is watching it happen. She's getting strangled, bitten, killed by the snake as Hellboy just observes. And then he decides to act. So then he like grabs the snake bites him, he gets suplexed multiple times, and then eventually kills the snake. But it ends up fundamentally like killing Hellboy to us. Well, he doesn't kill Hellboy. It transports him to a different dimension. So then he's starting to see like his mom and Cora's there explaining like the sins and stuff. Like he can't even kill a fucking snake. You know what I mean? Like that's just underwhelming. So, getting to the climax of the film though, they end up going to a church because Tom wants to bury his father. Turns out Effie turned his father into a horse. And that took a lot out of Tom's father, so he dies as a result of being a horse that was being ridden for so long. So he wants to take his father now to a church to bury him on, the sacred ground. Crooked Man shows up, Effie shows up, Crooked Man's got zombies now, so he starts raising the dead. And this is when Hellboy finally starts to do things like he shoots a few of the zombies. The Reverend then blesses a shovel and he starts hitting zombies. Hellboy hits zombies with a shovel and shit like that. Like, the Crooked Man is not very powerful. I want to make that clear. They don't make the Crooked Man seem like a real threat. They just make everyone else seem like they're not capable of actually handling anything. But I will say, these scenes, I think, are the most visually interesting scenes. Like, I would have liked to see more of this. Zombies are beyond played out. It's beyond exhausting to see them. But it is nice to see Hellboy do things, as opposed to just kind of stand around looking cool. So, and I think they do a good job of actually having him look cool when killing these zombies. And blessing a shovel and hitting things with a shovel, how is that not badass? That's some stone cold Steve Austin shit right there. Like, that's good stuff. But it's so short-lived. Eventually, Reverend and Joe go into a tunnel. Tom and Hellboy go to, like, the Crooked Man's manner after they hit the Crooked Man with a shovel. Tom's got his lucky bone. He eventually uses it to do like a fucking stupefy on Effie, the other witch working with the Crooked Man. Hellboy starts hallucinating, so he's seeing his mom again. He ends up almost shooting himself in the head, but he breaks free of the brainwashing. And then the climactic showdown between Hellboy and the Crooked Man is really lame. He kind of spins Hellboy around with, his superpowers, kind of like how Saruman had Gandalf spinning in a circle, if you remember that scene. That's kind of what the Crooked Man does to Hellboy. He just kind of spins him around, throws him around a little bit, and then he gets him, like, lying down. So the Crooked Man comes over and he spits in Hellboy's mouth, so he's, like, puking out, like, a bunch of bugs and stuff onto Hellboy's mouth, and he's like, you could have saved your mom twice now if you just gave me their souls. The other guy, like, talking about Tom and stuff. And then Tom comes up the stairs, and he's got a witch ball, and he says, this is from Cora Fisher. And he throws the witch ball, which again is a shit nugget, like a furry shit nugget, and it goes right down the pipe of the Crooked Man, who turns around and eats it. It gets caught in his throat. So I guess that's the purpose of it. Like, you're supposed to throw it at someone and hope that they choke on it. So he starts choking on the witch ball, which Hellboy then capitalizes off of. So he starts beating on the Crooked Man a little bit, and it's really kind of silly because he like throws him down the stairs, and all of the coins that he was carrying start flying out of his pockets. It's like when Sonic gets hit in a video game and he just loses all of his rings. That's what was happening to the Crooked Man. Hellboy throws him down the stairs, coins fly out. Hellboy throws him down another flight of stairs, more coins fly out. And then it ends with him just shooting him in the head and more coins fall out. It's like when you hit the jackpot at like a fucking arcade. He just starts like spilling coins out of his skull. That's most of the main stuff. I don't think the movie is nearly as bad as most people probably expect it to be, but that doesn't mean that it's a great film either. I didn't like it that much. I wasn't bored by it or anything, and I do think there are moments they did a good job with it. But overall, the horror wasn't working for me, which was a huge emphasis for the film, and Hellboy being so passive and uninvolved in everything really wasn't working for me either. And if it's all about him being a detective, why is he bad at it? Like, I don't think he or Joe really were useful in progressing the plot. It was really mainly Tom. Tom was kind of the guy who kept figuring things out and pushing it forward, and Hellboy and Joe would just get the information from Tom doing these things, really. I don't think there was anything they did necessarily that was very helpful in connecting this mystery or anything. Nor was there really a mystery to solve. It was really, the Crooked Man is here, he's bad. Effie is here, she's bad. It's a witch, Crooked Man is taking souls, we gotta stop him. There wasn't much of a mystery in the first place to solve. So I just kind of wish they'd let them do more. If they're not going to be, piecing together an elaborate puzzle, let them start beating the shit out of witches and zombies. Like, let that happen a little bit more, you know what I mean? Again, I don't think it's a horrible film, at least not to the level I think most people were expecting it. And I've decided to look into, like, what Hellboy comic fans think of it, and a lot of Hellboy comic fans really like this movie. And I'm happy to see that. Definitely wasn't for me, though. This was definitely not a film that I found a lot to love about. Again, I like the style. I like some of the decisions they made with, like, keeping it more small and localized. It really felt like a piece of a Hellboy show. Like, it felt like you were dropped into the middle of a season of Hellboy, which is cool. Like, I would love a Hellboy show. Like, have smaller scale stories like this, and you could definitely make it work. Like, I think that'd be a banger. That's kind of what it felt like, but not quite to the level I would have liked to see. It was there were good ideas here that I don't think were executed all that well. But again, is it worth watching? If you really like the comics, I think so. If you're more of a fan of the previous movies, probably not. If you like horror movies, maybe. If you're a big fan of like very generic horror. Overall though, it's not like a bad time or anything. I didn't hate watching it or anything. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. I had a piece of stubborn lip skin that I ripped off right before starting this recording, so my lip might bleed a little bit. Don't be concerned. That's just part of being 31 years old now. Even something as simple as Taking a little bit of chapped lip skin off is enough to have me bleeding profusely, it seems. But you know what else is bleeding? Marvel at the box office. Now, this is a conversation in cinema that happens more frequently than people debating whether or not Sam and Frodo were gay. So many people since the end of Endgame have talked about how Marvel is dead and dying, and that superhero fatigue had finally reached its molten core where everyone was done with MCU and how bad the quality was. But despite all of that hoopla, pretty much all of the MCU projects did decently well for the most part. Like, even unanimously hated stinkers like Ant-Man Quantumania still generated like $500 million. But the quality did significantly decline, and a lot of people were getting tired of it. And some of them did actually not do well, like the Marvels. But on the whole, the MCU was still fine in the box office, but it was showing signs of weakness. Now, they've released 2 decent movies back-to-back, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. But they're not exactly doing the billion-dollar nut-busting that the MCU was known for. Fantastic Four is experiencing a 80% drop from its debut, so going into its second week here, it has declined significantly. It had a great start, and it had incredibly strong word of mouth, but it doesn't seem like that's translating to asses in seats. And Thunderbolts was the same thing. People saw it, they were surprised by how good it was, saying, you know, Marvel's fucking back, baby. Fuck all your seatbelts, because we are in it again. But then that also didn't have the strongest box office run. Which is now leading to the bigger conversation that's been had a lot about the state of the MCU. Are people just tired of it? Is superhero fatigue really setting in now, finally? Or is it mainly just Marvel? Because Superman has done great in the box office. It has been fucking slapping in the box office. And it's a good movie. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are also good movies, especially in a sea of dog shit that Marvel had been farting out for quite a few years, with a few exceptions like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And now it's left a lot of people wondering, well, what the fuck's going on? Why are they not having strong box office performances when these are finally some decent films from Marvel again? And to be fair, I think it's a little overblown with Fantastic Four flopping and all of that with that narrative that's being spun. It's still at $370 million worldwide in its second weekend. That is still pretty solid, but against its budget and its marketing, it still needs to make like $450 million or something from the reports I read. Same with the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts generated $380 million total across its lifespan in theaters, and it needed about $450 million for that break even. So like, it still does have a little ways to go, but it's not doing like dreadfully. Like, I don't think all the Marvel execs are in full force panic mode, sweating, contemplating sitting on a cactus or something, like worried that it's all dried up and Marvel's dead. But it is less than you would expect for some actually good Marvel movies. It's an interesting topic because, again, this is a conversation that's been had a lot, but I had always just said, yeah, the films have gotten worse, but there's always going to be an audience for it. They're always going to make like over $500 million. Turns out that is not the case. These are better movies than the ones that were coming before it and performing much better, but it really does seem like people are checking out. A lot of people are starting to view the MCU kind of like homework, that you have to do like prerequisite reading and watching the shows beforehand and catch up on like 5 and 6 movies just to be able to go watch one of the films and understand or appreciate it. So a lot of people found that to be kind of tedious. And also I think a lot of people were just tired of MCU in general because they would release like 4 films a year, all of which were mediocre at best. And now they've finally got 2 like pretty strong films, but a lot of people just don't really care about the word of mouth. They're just kind of done with it, it seems. And to be honest, it's kind of hard to blame them. I can totally see why. With so many superhero movies coming out, and a lot of them in the last 5 or so years being really underwhelming, why would you keep getting excited and seeing every single new one, you know what I mean? Even the ones that do get a lot of hype and glaze, it's hard to just want to go see that because then you still have to wonder, will I even understand it because I didn't watch the last couple and I didn't watch any of the shows. And in Thunderbolt's case and Fantastic Four's case, you don't need to. You can go in them and entirely enjoy them by their own merit. They stand on their own 2 legs, especially Fantastic Four. It is all self-contained. So it sucks to see that it's not doing well, but it's not like I blame the general audience for not going and seeing it. There has been way too many underwhelming superhero films for them to just blindly trust that this is finally a good one, right? But I don't think it's like superheroes in general, because Superman is proving that there is still a huge appetite for superhero movies. I think it's just Marvel has been so sullied by their bad movies over the last few years that people are just kind of yawning at it. Which puts Marvel in a weird spot, because they finally had this come to Jesus moment and said, what if we made good movies? And then they fucking hoisted up the guy who suggested that like some kind of hero, you know? Like the big eureka moment. How about some good films? But they're not performing that well in the box office. So like it sucks to see that. And it's weird because now they do finally understand that they need to have quality films in order to stay competitive and stay generating unfathomable amounts of money. But the general audience has kind of turned their backs on them and don't really care to hop back into the Marvel train. So they have some good films, but now the audience isn't, ferociously starving to consume it anymore. But they still have, of course, like the core community of like Marvel enthusiasts that are going to see every film they put out regardless. It's just now they're having a harder time reaching beyond that scope, even with extremely positive word of mouth. It definitely is a weird predicament for them to be in. I feel like they waited too long to finally start realizing we gotta try again. They can't just coast to $1 billion every time. And I think the path going forward for Marvel isn't to fall back into old ways or something and make like really uninteresting, boring super slop, but instead continue with this focus of making things that are actually interesting and good, like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, but find a way to do it without the extraordinarily bloated budget. They are not going to be making as much money as they used to. They're going to need to find a way to deliver quality productions for a fraction of the cost. They can't just mindlessly dump hundreds of millions of dollars into every single Marvel everything these days. That time is behind us now. That is in the past. I think they need to start analyzing their budgets a little tighter and figuring out ways of being creative with it so they can deliver these same kind of movies that are strong, but without eating a loss on them. Like Thunderbolts, that's a film that probably didn't need $450 million box office run to break even. You probably could have delivered that same level of film for less money, so that way the 380 that it did generate could have already been at your break even. I feel like there's definitely ways, I think these budgets are super overblown, which isn't specific, exclusive to just Marvel. It's Hollywood in general. Like that fucking Netflix stinker Electric State had a, $300 million budget or something, and that was abominable. It really feels like there's some kind of fraudulent bookkeeping going on over there, some kind of fucking scam, but that's a topic I've already yapped about a lot. Point is, for Marvel now, they probably realize that the audience isn't just going to blindly eat everything that they feed them. They need to keep delivering good movies, but they need to find a way to make them for less money, so that way the box office runs don't need to be colossal, historic, record-breaking performances in order to generate any level of profit. Though, admittedly, I think there's a chance Marvel learns the opposite lesson, that people don't want good movies. They'll turn to Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and be like, well, we tried a quality approach, that didn't work, let's go back to quantity. That would be a real shame, but I think there is a chance. These zombies in suits, they could very well look at these box offices and be like, this was a failure, this experiment didn't work. That guy that we hoisted up about, what if we made good movies? Time to fire him. Fucking throw him out that window. That was a terrible idea. We lost money on it. We're going to go back to quantity and just really generic, safe, boring slop. That's what the people want, clearly. I'd hate to see that, but I think there is a chance. I can only hope they don't go that direction. But anyway, though, I wanted to just talk about this a bit. I found it interesting to see Marvel is no longer the guaranteed infinite money glitch juggernaut that it used to be. Though, of course, it is still making tons of money in the box office. It's not like it's all doom and gloom. It's just in a weird spot right now where it's not guaranteed success every time. Anyway, that's about it. So, yeah. I'm not exaggerating with the title. This is an honor I don't bestow upon things willy-nilly. I think most of you know that. For me to claim that something is the worst I've experienced in whatever category, that is an honor that is extraordinarily rare. It's like being knighted by the Queen. to be the worst movie I've ever seen, you have to move mountains. Because I see so many bad movies. It is one of my favorite pastimes is watching bad films because I get a lot of enjoyment out of a really fun bad movie. And I see so many. And of every movie I've ever seen, Amazon Prime's War of the Worlds is the worst. It has now taken that crown, which was a crown worn by what I still believe to be one of the most bafflingly dog-shitty movies ever produced, called Let's Be Evil. It wore this crown for 9 years. It had a good run. It should be very proud of itself. But on August 4th, 2025 years after the death of Christ, we have now found the worst film that humanity has produced so far. I wrote down a lot, so we're going to really dive into the spaghetti and the meatballs here. Spoiler warning. Don't think you should care about spoilers, but they're there anyway. I really am not exaggerating with how unbelievably horrible this film is. And it's not even like it is objectively the worst thing film has ever been used for. Like, there have been worse productions, but this is an insult to the entire medium of making movies. It's not a movie. What you're watching is one big ad for Amazon. War of the Worlds is a property that's somewhat sentimental to me, and to see it bastardized and perverted into this homunculus that Amazon molded it into is nothing shy of criminal. If aliens truly did invade this planet and exterminate every single one of us, not even they could wipe the stain of this film's existence from the galactic tomes of time. This has been so catastrophically abominable that I think just the existence of this film has set our species back hundreds of years. It is unreal that this even got made. And I looked it up. Apparently this was made back in like the pandemic, so like in 2020, and they just squatted on it, kegeling it in their colon for the last 5 years, and then just randomly decided to drop it now. I don't know why. It should have just stayed there. They should have buried it. This should have never seen the light of day. This is a tomb, a sarcophagus we should have never opened. So War of the Worlds, I'm being very literal, is an advertisement for Amazon. It's an affront to the entire art of making a movie. Anyway, let's go ahead and cannonball into the pool here. It stars Ice Cube, and the film tries to be creative by emulating what some films have in the past with something like Searching, where it's all presented through a computer display. So you're seeing Ice Cube and all of the events unfolding and all the characters through FaceTimes and emails and anything that's on his monitor. So you see Ice Cube through his webcam, and that's how you experience the movie. It was a clever gimmick when it was used in Searching. In here, it's just really annoying. And the movie actually feels like it's written by a 13-year-old who just learned how to code with C#. Like, it's all about hacking. Ice Cube is like an expert hacker in a DHS program that's spying on everyone through mass surveillance, and he can actually do anything. He is basically omniscient. He can hack every possible atom on this planet, and he can see every nook and cranny of this world through computers and drones and even just air itself, it seems like. There is nothing that escapes his gaze. And the film, what you'll notice right away is it looks terrible, atrocious. And I don't mean that by just big budget standards. I mean by even like indie and student film standards. The visuals here are so bad. Look up any scene from this movie, probably even in the trailers. I haven't bothered to check the trailers. Lord help us. I can't imagine consuming more of War of the Worlds beyond what I've already consumed here from this. But like, look at any scene from this film, like when the aliens are present. It really does look like this was thrown together in one afternoon. It looks like previs. It looks like Sonic the Hedgehog before they redesigned him. Like, it is just hard to look at. Like, it's painful. It looks like PlayStation 1 cutscenes used to look. I cannot believe that they actually gave this the green light to be viewable by us. I feel dirty for watching it. It's so incomplete looking. I don't even know how you make movies look this bad in this day and age. Like, even just your stock assets that you can just freely use look so much cleaner than everything here. And the crazy thing is, it uses so much CGI.
almost the entire film after the aliens arrive is showing you aliens and destruction and CGI explosions, and there's even like a drone sequence laser fight, and it really does, I'm not like exaggerating, it really does look so bad. Like, it looks like they made the whole film for $10. Like, they just hired a couple of people from Fiverr and gave them a week to work on it. That was the deadline. I don't know how they could possibly achieve such bad visuals. And this is an Amazon Prime movie. What the fuck? They have actual infinite money. Unbelievable. This movie is like if Birdemic was an ad for Amazon. And I haven't even begun even talking about the unhinged insanity that is the plot. But before even getting to that, it's important we make a mention, nobody in this movie is acting. Like, there's actually... The acting is a word that must have been forbidden on set. All they are doing is reading plainly from their scripts with no acting except for Ice Cube occasionally doing the eye twitch. That's it. There is no acting in this movie. It feels like what AI would generate if you asked it to make, like, a War of the Worlds Amazon Prime ad. And, like, you wanted it to star Ice Cube. I don't, like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, this must have just been, like, a really easy paycheck. But they also just didn't even want to put in the bare minimum for it. Like, I feel like the talent here was kind of embarrassed to be working on it, so they didn't really want to give a ton of effort. That's how it comes across. So now, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about, like, the narrative. So, the movie starts with Ice Cube. He's in his lair. He's spying on everyone, which includes his son and his daughter and his daughter's boyfriend. His daughter is pregnant. Her name is Faith. And he's a real grumpy guy after the passing of his wife. And he sends her messages on Facebook. Of course, it's not reciprocated because she's dead. He listens to an old voicemail about, like, taking out the trash and being nice to the kids, which is an interesting thing to have to remind your husband to be nice to your children. Well, yeah, he is an unreasonable asshole to them. He even, like, calls his son... Well, actually, he hacks his son's computer so he can uninstall a video game from it. He just randomly hacks into his son's computer, saw that he was enjoying a video game, uninstalls it and says, "You need to get a job, you loser. You fucking bum. You're a loser. You're a loser. We paid $200K for your education. You're a fucking loser. Get a job. Get a job." And then hangs up on him. He really just beats the message home that he hates video games and thinks video games are dumb. But anyway, he's got a task right now at work where he's trying to catch the Disruptor, a hacker who's threatening to release classified government documents through a YouTube video. So he posts a YouTube video. It says, "I will be releasing top secret documents using or about their Goliath program." And so now Ice Cube has to stop him from releasing those documents. So he tracks his IP through the YouTube video using his elite hacking tools, which again it's basically God mode. He is a server admin of life. Ice Cube he literally just types in words. So he types in, like, "Disruptor home address, please get," and it's like, calculating, IP gotten, here's exactly where Disruptor is. And he can do that for anything. He can type in anybody's name, literally anybody's name, and it somehow gets the exact person he wants it to be, even though obviously other people are going to share that name, but somehow it always hones in on the right person, and then gives him, like, the closest drone so he can spy on them, or the closest, like, CCTV camera to spy on them. Like, the technology it's like fucking Fantastic Four level almost, where you can, like, teleport and shit, basically. Like, they've reached quantum surveillance. So anyway, they've got Disruptor's IP. They then go and storm the IP there. But before that, of course, he needs to hack into his daughter's computer because he learns from her boyfriend that she's having a baby shower and he didn't get an invite, so it made him upset. So he hacks into his daughter's computer using TeamViewer, where he uses his tools to generate a master key to TeamViewer so he can log into anybody's account with the master key password. So now he's on his daughter's computer reading her messages, and he starts feeling bad because she's like, "My dad doesn't get it." And he's like, "Oh man," as he's hacked into his daughter's shit. So now, anyway, we learn about Mark. That's her boyfriend. He's an Amazon Prime driver. He's an Amazon delivery driver who really likes Prime. And one of the lines that they reuse like 6 times is, like, his son Dave says, you know, I really think you're overdoing it, Dad. We don't need the government to be, checking out what we put in our Amazon cart. Any opportunity to wiggle the word Amazon out of every character's mouth with a little positivity following it was taken in this film. So Mark really likes being an Amazon driver. Ice Cube gets a message from a NASA contact of his, and she's analyzing weird, wacky, freaky weather phenomena. And he doesn't really care. He doesn't want to watch that. He says, I spy on people, not clouds, or something. Anyway, they go to the Disruptor address. Turns out Disruptor was a step ahead of them. It was a decoy, one of his infamous decoys that he's become known for. But while they're there, the aliens crash land. A bunch of meteors start crashing, and they're blowing up buildings and cars, and people are freaking out, going crazy, because everyone's under attack. And they show you so many sequences of the carnage, and I am not exaggerating again. It looks so bad. Like, think about Sharknado, but unironically, like with no self-awareness, and used primarily to try and get you to buy Amazon Prime. It's like vomit-inducing how awful it is. Like in one of the clips, by the way, to showcase the acting prowess that people brought to the table here. In one of the clips, the news reporter is filming one of the meteors, the aliens, crashing into a school, and she goes, wow, this one just crashed into my kids' school. They're all dead. And she says that deadpan, super calmly. Her kid was at that school, is now dead along with all the other children, and that's her reaction to it. And then they cut to the next sequence of terror. It was so crazy. But anyway, now everyone's in a panic, so Ice Cube's getting called in by the government, the president, everyone, all the moving pieces, and they all do it through Zoom, a Zoom call, so that way we can watch it, because that's how we're experiencing this film. We're a computer screen, basically. So anything on there we see, and everyone is always FaceTiming and on Zoom, which is probably the least efficient way they could be communicating, but they're doing it for our pleasure, not efficiency. So they start working on the Planetary Alliance. That took 5 seconds. The whole world unites to form the Planetary Alliance, basically on that call. And they start trying to figure out what they do next. So the big thing is the Planetary Alliance decides, let's start fighting back. So they get the tanks out, they get the jets out, and they're taking the aliens down almost effortlessly. So Ice Cube is watching like a real-time sports tracker of victories versus defeats that is calculating every victory and every defeat across the globe, and we are slaughtering the aliens. Like, we are absolutely clapping their cheeks on our home turf. We got like 100-something victories to only like 40 losses, and Ice Cube's main thing that he does for this montage is he just goes, yeah! Damn right! Take your intergalactic asses home, was one of his lines. So he's basically just cheering them on. A lot of this movie is Ice Cube just like reacting to something. Like when the aliens are crashing and killing kids, he goes, damn, damn, damn. Like that's about all he does there. But now that we're winning, he's like, yeah. Anyway, though, during all the hubbub, his daughter gets injured when the aliens attack, and she gets a big boo-boo to her leg, and she's bleeding, and it's very intense. Ice Cube doesn't want to lose his daughter, so she's FaceTiming her dad and, worrying that she's about to die. And Ice Cube's like, don't worry, I'm going to come get you. For the first time, he's actually about to, leave the office, but it turns out he's locked in. So he hacks it to let himself out, but then he's locked in at the lower levels, too. So then he gives up and immediately goes back to his chair. And then he's like, all right, don't worry, I've got another idea. So on FaceTime, he got her location, used the drones, saw that there was a Tesla nearby, hacked the Tesla, and then got her to get in the Tesla and drove her away with remote controlling the Tesla to get her to a hospital, but all the hospitals are full, so now he recruits Mark to go save his daughter, Faith. It's like the worst attempt at trying to get you emotionally invested because you just do not care. Because it really feels like Ice Cube does not care. There is no emotional weight to anything here. It is so stale and so flat. It almost felt like they were laughing while filming this. Like they knew how bad it was. So anyway, now his daughter's, she's in a pickle, but Mark's on the way and he works for Amazon, so he's basically a fucking superhero. And during this like ride, as he's like remote controlling her to safety, because she was about to just get killed by the alien, she gives him a lecture on how powerless he is. So he's like apologizing for being a bad dad, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, who ordered the yappuccino? Jesus Christ, old man, you just don't get it. After mom died, you thought you could save her, and then you thought you could, like, save the whole world, and then you thought you could save anybody, but you can't. Get it through your thick skull, you can't save anyone, you are powerless, move on." And she drives that point home as he is literally saving her life. Without him, she would have died. He is literally saving her as she is giving this lecture. It's very hypocritical. I don't know what they thought they were cooking with that, because it didn't really match the scene. So anyway, he gets on the horn with the president because things are, all cattywampus, and they're starting to fight back. And that's when he gives the title drop. He gives the name drop, title of the movie. He says, "All right, I see no other option other than to initiate the War of the Worlds," about the Planetary Alliance stepping up their counteroffensive against the aliens. Which I guess was like a really cool moment where you're supposed to pump your fist. Yeah, initiate the War of the Worlds. Dave then calls his pops. He lets old man Ice Cube know that he knows more than Ice Cube thinks he does. He's not just a video game playing dweeb. He knows why the aliens are here. They're after something called Goliath, which interestingly is what Disruptor kind of mentioned earlier. We'll get to that in a moment, but there might be a bit of a plot twist coming up if you can connect the very subtle dots. So Dave is talking about, like, "Dad, you need to trust me. There's something called Goliath and the aliens are here." But Ice Cube is like, "You're a fucking moron, son. Get it through your thick skull. I'm so disappointed in you. You're a gamer. You make me sick. Don't you ever call me again." And then hangs up on him. He just berates him again and then literally hangs up on him. As his daughter is, like, bleeding out and shit, like, he doesn't even care about the safety of Dave. He's just like, "Can you stop fucking calling me? Stop it, you play games, I don't want to hear from you." And Dave is trying to let him know, like, "Hey, look, there's something we could do here, like, I know what's going on." And then it turns out the aliens, as they're getting their shit pushed in by humanity's weapons, they change tactics and start targeting data centers, and they put their tentacles into data centers, and they start hyper downloading all of our data, which ends up draining all of our data, which shuts off the military. So they hit the power switch on the military, and then spontaneously every battleship, every plane, every helicopter falls out of the sky or blows up, and now we can't fight the aliens anymore aside from just small arms fire on the ground. Everything else is now shut down because they drained our data centers. And interestingly, it's like they forgot this plot point. I'm getting ahead of myself, but just know this was a crucial moment where they turned the tides. The aliens turned the tides on us by draining all of our sweet data. So the NASA lady was at one of the data centers when this happened, and she noticed these little bugs. Little bugs like to eat data. They consume it. They like data. And what happens is she connects the dots is that they're here for our data. They must eat our data, and they must like all this data we have on all of our citizens and all of the people across the globe. They want our data. And as they continue draining us, they make a mention that all money in the world is gone. Money has been erased. Oil tankers are blowing up. And we've been set back to the Stone Ages. Lights are turning off. The world's gone dark, in their words. It really feels like, I'm not kidding, it feels like this movie was written by a child. Like, everything happens like this, too. Like, the aliens come, and then we shot them with tanks, and they didn't like it. So what they did is they shut down the military. They turned off the military, and then they erased all of our money, and it disrupted the chain of command, and then all the lights turned off, but because of our data. It's so bad. It's so, like, bafflingly bad. I cannot believe a human being wrote this. Like a real sentient person. Like, this could have been written by an alien. Like, it might have been. I don't understand it. Also, Facebook is being deleted. This was a crucial moment. Not only is all money being erased, but websites are being erased. Facebook is getting deleted, and Ice Cube is there on his wife's Facebook page, taking one last look at it as messages are vanishing. He's listening to the audio message again, and then it does the classic cliche as it turns off. and then it vanishes, and then 404s. But it's not every website. YouTube actually still exists because that becomes a crucial plot device here towards the end of the film. But Facebook is gone. So Disruptor goes live on YouTube, and he mentions Goliath. Like, the aliens are here because of Project Goliath. The government knew Project Goliath would summon the aliens because they love data. The government knew that more data would mean aliens will full-scale invade us. And then the big reveal, Ice Cube figures out Disruptor is his son. Who could have seen that coming, huh? That's quality writing right there. It was really subtly planted, but they pulled it off. So his son then tries to convince him that the government is lying to him. The government is, not super trustworthy. And Ice Cube's like, get out of town! What are you talking about? You're fucking stupid. You're like a gamer and shit. I would never trust you. You're a criminal now, actually, too. This is stupid. No, there's no such thing as Goliath. They wouldn't lie to me. And his son is just like, look, Dad, listen, I'm going to send you Goliath. Just take a peek. And he's like, okay, buddy. But I already know there's nothing in here that's going to convince me. He even says that verbatim. There's nothing in these files that will convince me that what you did is right. And he opens the files, and the first line is about, like, the Roswell crash, I think it was. It was like an alien crash, and it said, like, weird weather phenomena, aliens, and data. In one sentence, he goes, oh my God, my son was right. The government's been lying to me this whole time. He read a sentence, one sentence, and immediately he's like, oh my God, he's absolutely right. And then, of course, he scrubs through the other alien pieces and then learns Project Goliath is a big data collection program, exactly like his son was saying. I don't know why he was so adamant about it being far-fetched conspiracy theory mumbo-jumbo, because his son was just telling him, like, Dad, Goliath is all about collecting our data on a bigger scale. Like, Goliath is, like, really big mass surveillance. And he's like, that's just not possible. I am the mass surveillance, and there's nothing more advanced than what I've got. Like, I don't know why that idea was so, like, incomprehensible to him, because he already has all of that basically at his fingertips. The only difference with Goliath is that it could also read people's thoughts, kind of, like it analyzed their thoughts better. So, like, it was only, like, one step forward where Ice Cube already was, and yet he's like, that's just a conspiracy. Nope, that wouldn't happen. The government wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. We don't do anything like that. They wouldn't do that. It was just so weird. I don't know why I'm harping on that so much. The whole movie fucking sucks. There are so many inconsistencies and so much wrong with it. But that in particular really stood out to me. Anyway, we then learn that Briggs, who is one of his contacts we've seen throughout the film sporadically, is actually the guy who spearheaded Project Goliath and was fully aware that by launching Project Goliath with this mass surveillance, the data collection was so grand in scale that it would summon aliens. Don't know how they knew that. There is no explanation for how they fucking knew that this level of data collection was what would be the beacon to bring all of the aliens to fucking spring break over here to eat it. I don't know how they analyzed that, but they knew that if they launched Project Goliath, it'd be a full-scale invasion. Even Briggs knew and just didn't care. He didn't give a fuck. He said, let them come. We'll beat them on our turf. Which we were until they sucked our data, which, of course, they knew was going to happen because they're drawn to data, yet they're all surprised when they go suck our fucking data. Like, they're on here, on our cocks here, literally sucking the life out of our dicks with all this data, and they knew that, yet for some reason did nothing to stop that. Oh my God, it's so fucking dumb. Anyway, Ice Cube confronts him directly. He knows all about Goliath. Briggs says, all right, you're out of line, you're fired. Revokes his access to everything, all of his tools. He can no longer be the big-time hacker. Until 2 seconds later, his son Dave hacks the government and grants his dad full access to everything. And then they team up. And now they're both disruptors. So they come up with a plan to make a rabbit virus that will poison the data that the aliens are eating, thus poisoning and killing the aliens. But they can't do it alone, so Dave brings in his hacker friends, the disruptors, and we meet the other elite hackers, like Code Crusher and Starfire. I shit you not, those are two of their names in the hacker group. It's painful. It really is painful. So they get together, they work on the rabbit virus while they're making the rabbit virus, which, by the way, only takes 2 minutes, but within that 2-minute time span, Ice Cube decides he wants to make a YouTube video. So he hops in Adobe After Effects and he makes a YouTube exposed video on Briggs, releases it on YouTube, exposing Project Goliath and Briggs, and the entire world watched it instantly. He posted it, the whole world watched it, he posted it on the Disruptor YouTube channel. The whole world watched it, and now everyone knows why the aliens are here, and they now hate Briggs. So, he got his revenge, and he revealed the truth to everyone about Project Goliath. And now the rabbit virus is done. Again, all of this basically happening instantaneously. So, the rabbit virus gets uploaded, but it wasn't enough to stop the aliens. All it did was make them mad, so what they did is they hacked the hackers before the hackers could fully hack them. And then they use the IP addresses of the hackers in the Disruptor group, and they go blow up their houses. So we watch Starfire get blown up, and then, God rest his soul, even Code Crusher perishes under the might of the aliens and their fury. So they die. So now they need to come up with a new plan. Dave survives, by the way. Turns out he was actually bouncing his IP address from Ice Cube's house, but really he was at a dude named Brian's house. So after Ice Cube's house gets blown up and Ice Cube thinks his son died, all Ice Cube can do is this and go, damn. But then his son calls him. He's like, not dead, I'm actually fine. I was over at Brian's house. I just bounced my IP. So Ice Cube gets the family together for a FaceTime. Mark has gone and stopped the bleeding from Faith's injury, so they're together. They're fine. That whole side quest has been completed. And he gets the family together for a FaceTime call because the NASA lady has just informed them that the little bugs actually have DNA. They are organic cyber hybrid beings, so they can be killed is the conclusion they reach, and they have a method. Turns out Faith, his daughter, was working on something called the Cannibal Code, which attacks 6 cells in a body. So they decide, let's rewrite the Cannibal Code to attack their cells and kill the aliens since they're organic too. So they do that immediately. They literally rewrite this code instantly. And it's perfect coding. But there's another problem that arises because the government's decided to bomb the Goliath building, which is the building Ice Cube is in. It was actually underneath his feet the whole time because the government now knows it's going for Goliath. All the aliens are converging on that building to suck Goliath dry of all that precious data. But this is where things get weird. They have bombers bombing aerial vehicles that are about to do this. How? They've already established that none of their air vehicles or air units, any vehicles in the military work anymore because the aliens sucked our data. But they have these bombers, and they also have drones that Ice Cube and family can access. Yet they had already made a point about how that's not possible because the aliens sucked our fucking data. But they totally forgot and just said, maybe people have already fallen asleep by this point and won't care. But I was awake the whole goddamn time watching this. They totally forgot that a plot point was they can't use these crafts. Because if they could, then it wouldn't matter about the data because they were beating the fuck out of the aliens using these vehicles. Using all of these aircrafts. So if they still have access to aircrafts, who cares if they go towards Goliath? Just blow them the fuck up. That was the whole reason, the whole point of trying to fight back with poisoned code is because we no longer have access to the military because of our sucked data. But now we have bombers that are going to go blow up Ice Cube. Just fucking blow up the aliens if we still have this ability. It's, oh my god, it actually made me upset. So, anyway, they rewrite the code, but Ice Cube has no way of taking that code and injecting it into Goliath downstairs because they don't allow thumb drives in the secured building. But, and this is where it gets so fucking shameless, but Mark has a thumb drive, and Mark works for Amazon. And you know what else Amazon has? Prime Air. So Mark gives a whole sales pitch about how Prime Air works and how he can give the thumb drive to the drone for Amazon Prime Air and fly it to him just like Amazon Prime does. And I'm not kidding, he gives a sales pitch. And then he takes the Amazon Prime drone and he flies the thumb drive over to Ice Cube. But not without some really intense dogfighting where the aliens are laser beaming at Mark flying the Amazon drone, but it's just too good. It's much more effective than all of the government planes, it seems, because they were just getting blown out of the sky with lasers at one point. Meanwhile, Mark, who is not a fighter pilot, he's something far stronger, an Amazon Prime drone delivery expert. He's dodging all their lasers, he's doing fucking barrel rolls, and then Dave is hacking nearby drones in order to blow up the aliens that are attacking Mark's drone. Again, how is he even able to access drones? That shit shouldn't be working in the first place, what you've already fucking established here. But anyway, Mark's made it to the building, but he hits something on the way in, and his drone flips over, and he can't flip it back. But luckily, they get to see that there is a man taking cover nearby. Through the camera of the drone, we get to see this. There's a man taking cover nearby, so Ice Cube instructs Faith to hack into the guy's phone and send him a text message asking him to flip over the drone. So she does. She hacks into his phone, sends the text message. The guy checks his phone. He says, "No way, are you kidding me? There's aliens here. I'm going to die if I do that." And then Mark says, bribe him with he didn't use the word bribe. Mark said, offer him $1,000 Amazon gift card. So she does. She sends him a text offering an Amazon Prime gift card for $1,000. And he instantly sprints over there. He reads it, sprints over, he flips the drone up for the bribed $1,000 Amazon gift card. So then Mark continues the mission. He delivers a thumb drive to Ice Cube. He makes it to the Goliath interface. And then as he's approaching the Goliath interface to plug it in, the tentacles are getting all up in his ass. And he's reaching heroically to plug in the cannibal code. And he does it. But then the feed cuts. But all the aliens start dropping like flies. They've done it. Cannibal Code was a great success. The aliens are dead. Our data is still not safe. They still have all of our data, but the aliens are now gone, and they abort the bombing mission, so Ice Cube gets to survive. And then the bad guy, Briggs, gets arrested, and disruptors are now hailed as heroes across the globe. And then there's like a special mention about like how important privacy and data is. So like the government's calling on Ice Cube saying, "We thank you for your service. We'd like you to come up with a new surveillance system that takes privacy into account, because we think privacy is important now." And Ice Cube says, "No, that's not my style anymore. Now, instead of watching people, I'm going to be watching you." And that's the end. That is Amazon's War of the Worlds. There's a lot that I just omitted, by the way, because it is just so unbelievably uninteresting and just downright insulting to the entire act of making a film that I just didn't even put it into the notepad. There is literally nothing redeeming about this film. The only positive I could almost squeak out here is that it is enjoyably shitty. Like, I do think this would have been a lot of fun to watch with friends because there is so much to laugh at and make fun of. But watching it on my own, sometimes it actually just made me mad. Like, it is crazy how bad this movie is, because it is really just like an ad being shoved down your throat, but in the form of a movie. Like, I do actually think that this is probably the start of where we see advertising go, where they disguise movies as ads. Like, they've already made this huge push for AI-generated ads, like, across the board. I keep seeing that pop up. I think they will also use AI to AI-generate movies that are actually just ads as well. It is just incredibly bad. That's really about it. It is the worst movie I've seen. See ya. I'm pretty sure I never made a review on Peacemaker Season 1, so I'm going to do that now briefly. I liked it. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Season 2 because the finale just aired. And I'm going to tell you something, sports fans. Brains were made for thinking, and boy howdy do I have thoughts. There's good and bad. The finale, bad. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. There's going to be spoilers here. I'm going to be talking about spoilers. This is your fair warning. Alright, let's begin. Season 2 is very different than Season 1. At least, I feel like it is. Season 1 was all about getting you to care about Peacemaker. This is a character most people had never heard of until the Suicide Squad rolls around, and then James Gunn gave you this character that most people wouldn't wipe their fucking ass with, and then all of a sudden tried to get you to care for him. Which is a tall order considering you had seen Peacemaker kill a beloved character in the Suicide Squad movie. Yet he takes a risk, makes Peacemaker the frontman, and John Cena, who is a talented actor but never really showcased like deep chops for an emotionally complex character until this. In season 1 of Peacemaker, I really bought into him. He had so much going on. A guy who had grown up under the guidance of some evil people and had done some heinous things, all in the name of what he believed was justice, peace. He said it best. If every grain of sand on a beach was a dick, he would suck each and every one of them if it meant peace would, fall upon the world or whatever. Like, he truly believed that what he was doing was for the better of the world. But everyone can see, the viewers, he's a bad guy. And throughout season 1, you see him start to change subtly, slowly, but he changes in a big, big, big way. He gets friends, and these friends are just as complex and just as fucked up as he is, and together they end up saving the world. It's a really good season, I felt. I thought it was exciting, and it did a great job getting you invested in these characters that you've never heard of. Season 2 now dives deeper outside of Peacemaker, and now you're seeing significantly more of Amelia Harcourt. She, I would actually say, is kind of the main character of the season. We get a lot of fleshing out of everything that's kind of fucked up in her life, and she can't get the job that she's basically done her whole life, and it's her whole reason for living is being, the secret agent that goes on missions for the fate of the country, fighting for her country, and she can't do that anymore after the events of season 1. So now she's just fucking cruising bars, getting into fights. And we see a lot of what happens in season 2 through Amelia Harcourt's eyes. It's not like POV, I'm not talking like fucking Cloverfield or anything here, but like, we are following it through Amelia Harcourt going through it. But that's not to say that Peacemaker fully takes a back seat or anything, like he is still very present. He's going through a lot. So season 2, he is now really exploring the dimension access that he has. There is a quantum unfolding space, which you're introduced to in season 1, and in this season, he's now exploring, and he happens to stumble upon a dimension that's extremely similar to our world, except his brother's alive. And his dad actually cares about him. And everybody loves Peacemaker. They view him as like the superhero. That guy is the shit. And he's never had anything like that. Love, adoration, and it's something he's always wanted. Season 2 drives home just how badly he wants to be accepted, how badly he wants to be a hero. And then he finds this dimension, and immediately he kills his doppelganger. He kills the Peacemaker of that dimension. It's actually amazing. It's a really good sequence. And now he's flip-flopping back and forth between these worlds. And I think that's super cool. Eagly as well. Eagly has a lot going on. Eagly has his own fucking story arc where he battles against a man who believes eagle are beaked vermin that must be exterminated from the country to save us from a curse. It's fucking, like, I actually really liked that a lot. It's goofy, but it was, like, exciting, actually. Eagly versus that hunter. That was fun. I do like them exploring these characters deeper, and season 2 is start to finish basically just about these characters becoming even more inseparable and even tighter. Chris, Peacemaker, is under surveillance because they don't trust him. They get a blip when he's using that quantum unfolding space in the different dimensions, so now they're investigating him and they're about to swoop in and try and take control of it. That's like the main big bad motivator here. Rick Flag Sr. has taken over and obviously holds a grudge against Peacemaker and wants an excuse to kill him. So the 11th Street kids work together to try and, keep Peacemaker safe and help him deal with everything that he is experiencing, with everything that's happening in the other dimension, all that kind of stuff. And most of it's played off comedically. I actually think the comedy in season 2 is better than in season 1. Especially a new character they introduced, Flurry. He had me giggling hard. So that was a nice treat. And most of what I'm saying here are things I liked about it. Like, I think these are positive aspects. I do think they did a good job with these characters. But I have very similar feelings on season 2 of Peacemaker to House of the Dragon season 2, where it felt like the whole season is just building, building, and then the finale hits, and I really think this is a very disappointing finale. I was streaming tonight, and a lot of people were saying the same thing about like how let down they were by the finale, because the finale is basically just setting up for the events that are going to follow either in a later season or in another DCU movie. It is purely a season that gets the framework set up for the next thing. You don't really feel like a sense of closure or a sense of like a big accomplishment. Like season 1 feels like a complete package. Like it clearly sets up for more, but at the end of season 1, a lot was accomplished. Here, it's mainly just these characters get closer and Peacemaker and Amelia start to recognize their love for one another. Like, things happen, but there's no real sense of, like, anything, huge or any kind of, like, big resolution. It ends with Chris getting trapped on another world. And that's it. And the finale is mainly just a music video. You spend more time listening to bands in the finale than you do watching a show, really. So, like, it is disappointing. And it feels like the journey here didn't really have a conclusion. And that the journey was really the friends we made along the way. Like, full stop. Like, that is unironically kind of the experience of season 2. So it's just underwhelming that it builds to things that don't even get concluded in the show. Like, it just sets up the pieces on the board and nothing else. Like, and I understand, like, getting ready for the next phase and moving down the line with more DC projects and needing to make this fit in and getting it rolling. But, like I said, with season 1, it still felt like it accomplished that while giving you a complete experience in the season, where it felt like things were happening. Season 2 also, like, it doesn't have a whole lot of action, which is fine because it does good character work. I think the writing is solid around the characters for the most part. But, like, there isn't a whole lot of Peacemaker doing things. Actually, I'm pretty sure Peacemaker only has 2 scenes in the entire season of him actually, like, fighting. One of them is he fights his doppelganger. It's a very brief encounter, but it's fun. And the other is when he's saving the day in another dimension, in that alternate world where he's the hero. I can't think of any other instance of him even battling or doing anything. Actually, that's not true. He fought Judo Master, again, very briefly in the forest when he was running away. So, like, he just didn't get a whole lot to do, and that's kind of the same song and dance for every other character. Outside of, like, developing them further as, like, friends and, all the fucked up baggage that they're carrying and learning to come to terms with it and move forward and be stronger from it. Outside of, like, those character struggles, there's not a whole lot of things the characters get to do, like, actively do. So overall, it's just a little disappointing, especially considering the note that season 2 leaves off on with the finale. The finale is, like, shockingly weak. So, I didn't dislike season 2, like, I still did enjoy it. It's not bad, but it is, I don't know, it feels a little undercooked. Like, there was definitely a better meal that could have been served with all of the things that they had, like, all of the ingredients. I think they were too focused on, like, setting things up for the next, either season of Peacemaker or the next, like, Superman movie or something like that. I think it was a little too thinking about the future that it kind of neglected what would make a season successful, like Peacemaker season 1. So I think it was a bit of a step back overall, but I didn't hate it. Anyway, though, that's just kind of how I feel about Peacemaker season 2. That's about it. See ya. I've seen a lot of people taking their britches off to drop a big-time steamer on this movie, saying how stinky it is and it's not worth watching, it's horrible. And I didn't think it was that bad. When I saw the previews for this, I was even somewhat optimistic. I mean, you got Nine Inch Nails doing the score for this. Come on. That's at least going to be watchable in and of its own right. And the visuals looked really cool. I'm not the biggest fan of Jared Leto's work. I know him and I look like we share the same mother, but I haven't really been a fan of anything he's been in for a while. But I thought, even in spite of that, this could still be a good movie. And I just finished watching it, and I thought it was fine. Like, I was entertained. It's not amazing by any means, but it's not nearly as bad as I've seen a lot of people saying it is. Man, there are some people talking about this movie like it came in and fucked their grandma. Like, it is... It's not that bad. Like, the worst part about this movie is everything story-related and character-related, really, when it comes to the writing around the characters. It's very, very weak when it comes to its writing. Like, that is by far the big blemish with Tron Ares. But I also just don't think it even tried. Like, I really think the entire goal of this movie here was just to deliver a visual spectacle and just let Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, just go fucking ballistic on the music. Because that's what it feels like the whole movie is. Just showing you really cool looking scene after really cool looking scene with some absolute boner jams. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the story first and foremost. It's pretty simple. It doesn't seem to follow anything from Tron Legacy, at least not from what I remember. Granted, it's been a very long time. But you have Dillinger, that's the bad company, and you have Incom. That's the good corporation. That's the one we pump our fist for. And these two companies are battling to try and find the permanence code, which will allow their basically 3D printed doodads and everything else to exist past 29 minutes. They have these lasers that can basically just create matter, anything they want, but it can only last 29 minutes before it times out and just fucking like vaporizes itself. And the permanence code will solve that issue. Dillinger wants to get its grubby paws on the permanence code so that way it can fart out weapons and evil stuff. And Incom, headed by Eve, wants to get their hands on the permanence code so they can change the world and basically eradicate disease and hunger and everything, since they can print everything you could ever imagine endlessly. Our main character is Jared Leto, Ares. He is the basically cybersecurity hall monitor superstar of the Dillinger grid. He is an AI program in charge of basically carrying out all of Dillinger's nefarious directives without question. A soldier for him. Dillinger's Umbrella Corp here, they're the bad guys. And Ares, he starts to become, like, empathetic. Like, he starts to feel things, and he is tasked with stopping the lead of Incom, her name is Eve, who has found the permanence code. And in doing so, he decides, you know what, I'm going to defy my orders because I want to live. I'm tired of being a program that dies after 29 minutes every time I get, snapped into the real world here. I want to experience life. He becomes very curious. He develops a soul. It's nothing you haven't seen before when it comes to its writing, and it is definitely the weakest part of this movie. There's not a ton of depth to any of the characters. They're not like overly fleshed out or anything. It's very simple. But I think it's effective enough to get you from set piece to set piece. So like, they have the technology to digitize you. So Eve, she gets cornered by Ares and Athena, who is the other cybersecurity superstar of Dillinger. And then she gets fucking minted on the blockchain because they have a laser that can reverse particle, Higgs boson, big ball buster, and zap you into the grid. So they mint her on the blockchain, turn her into an NFT. That way they can extract the permanence code from her, killing her in the process. And Ares, this is his chance. She knows the permanence code, so he's going to save her, defying all of his orders, so that way she can help him survive past 29 minutes in the real world so he gets to experience life. He wants to funge the non-fungible. And in doing so, you get to see the grid, which is very cool looking, and you get to see some action in the real world using these 3D printed, light cycles and the programs. It's cool visually. It's just the writing is really wimpy. It's not well written, and I don't think you're going to see a lot of glaze for that. I imagine most people are going to say the same thing about this film, that it looks really cool and it sounds really cool, and that's it. And they're right, that is it. But that's a big bulk of the movie. It put all of its eggs in that basket. There's not a whole lot else outside of those two things anyway. So while the writing is weak, and while there is definitely some cringe scenes here, I don't think it ruined my enjoyment of just a simple popcorn flick where I'm watching, extreme lights blow up and shit and video game sound effects with a really great Nine Inch Nails track playing. So yeah, it definitely has its flaws. I really think that pretty much everything it set up with the characters was a miss. I just don't see many people going into this film being like, wow, that villain was so deep and complex. He is literally just one note. That's it. And I've seen that criticism about him as well, and it's true. He doesn't. That's all he is. He's just I must get permanence code to do bad stuff for money. He even point blank says, $1 trillion I will make with blood money, Ares, and it's your job to help me do it. That kind of thing. It's very hammered home. It's not a good villain, and our main character is fine, but not super deep either. I'm talking about both Eve and Ares. Neither one of them gets a whole lot of tender loving care put into building this character up to make you invested in them. But even with these flaws, I still did have fun watching the movie. Because, like I said, most of the film is just showing you really cool visuals either in the grid or even outside of the grid. Because they bring the grid to the real world frequently. In fact, I don't think you're ever in the real world without the grid, being present in some way. Whether it's Ares and Athena coming out there or something. Pretty much every scene is going to have some cool shit from the grid. And The music is just so good. So I had fun. It's not great. It's not an amazing movie, but I think it was still an entertaining one. That's really about it. See ya.